not the pink thing, but this is the ureter, the beige tube. Here it is up here. It comes down, down, down. And they go into the bladder under the umbilical arteries right here. See, there it is. See, there's where it's going into the bladder right there. Okay? Now, to see how the urine's stored in the bladder, to see how the urine gets to the outside, the urethra is going to go out through there, and it's going to go through the pelvis to get to the outside. So we have some cutting to do. But before we do that, let's look at the obvious female parts. Okay. There's one of the ovaries, the little bean-shaped thing right there. That's the ovary on that side. Here's the other ovary right there between my finger and the probe. Now, if you look really carefully, you'll see that the tube, there's a very fine tube. Yeah, you can see it quite nicely here, wrapped around the ovary. And see how fine the tube is here? Right there? That's called that's the fallopian tube. Now, in a human female, the entire tube is fallopian tube, and that's where fertilization takes place. But in human females, the implantation occurs down in the body of the uterus, the sort of triangular body of the uterus. The pig is different because they don't just have one baby, they have 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 babies. So the uterus expands, and you can see that whereas the tube is very fine at the beginning, all of a sudden the tube gets thicker. And this thickened part of the tube is on each side. These are called the horns of the uterus, and that's where the babies are carried. They're carried stacked on top of each other up in each horn. Okay? If a human female, if implantation occurs in the fallopian tube, what's that called? An ectopic pregnancy, and that doesn't work. The fallopian tube is not made to accommodate the baby. The fallopian tube, as it stretches, there's considerable pain, and even the possibility of rupturing the fallopian tube. It's not unusual when you get an ectopic pregnancy that sometimes the fallopian tube has to be removed. It doesn't mean that the woman can't have babies. She still has the other fallopian tube. All right. Okay. So we've got the ovary. The first little part of the fine tube is fallopian tube. And then where the tube thickens in the pig only, it's called the horns of the uterus. Okay, now we've got to see how all of this connects with the outside down here. All of this, the urethra, the vagina, and even the lower end of the colon, have to go down through the opening in the pelvis. Like the pelvis is like this on the pig. All of those structures are going through the pelvic outlet. If you look on the poster to the left, you see stages of childbirth. You can see that the one on the far, the right-hand diagram, the baby's head has to go down through that pelvic outlet, right? That's often where the delivery becomes very difficult, is the baby's head has to just fit through the pelvic outlet. Well, in order to see everything here, we're going to have to dissect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some cutting, and then I'm going to actually cut through the pelvis. Okay, I make no guarantees. This is kind of tricky to do, but we'll see what we can do here. I should really use a stick. This is okay. This works okay. Now, what I'm going to have to do, I'm cutting just through muscle now. What I'm going to have to do in a second is actually cut